Okay, good afternoon. Today we will discuss about the five aggregate. But before we get to that, let me stop here for a moment. We have talked about the Four Noble Truths, and the first Noble Truth is the dukkha. Okay, and this is what the Buddha mentioned in the text, what he means by dukkha. We go through this: birth is suffering, decay is suffering, okay, disease is suffering, all the way down. And then he summarized at number 8 that the five aggregates of clinging are suffering. This is what the Buddha wants us to fully understand, what he means by five aggregates of clinging. So we have to understand three terms here. The first one is five aggregate. Second one is clinging, and the third one is suffering, which is dukkha. All of this is dukkha. Let's move on to the topic of the five aggregates today. So we'll get to know what are the five aggregates, okay, and go through each one of them, what it means, and then at the end, hope you can see the picture how clinging on five aggregates is suffering, as the Buddha mentioned. Okay, that's the objective of today. The nature of human being. Okay, everything that the Buddha discovered, he discovered the true nature of things. He learned from his own experience. Observing life is suffering. Observing the cause of suffering. He observed that suffering can be ended, and then he also observed the way that lead him to free himself from suffering. So he observed from the nature. To be specific, the nature is his physical body and mind, his life. So the nature of human being, that's something we should understand. In fact, I like to say we must understand of who we are, what is life. This is a starting point. Suffering comes from here, not come from the world. Come from here, body and mind. So if you want to free yourself from suffering, you need to know what is physical, what is mind. If you fully understand these two components, then perhaps you can find a way to decrease or minimize your daily suffering or conflict in life. Okay, from the minor one to the major one. All right. So let's get to know the term first. The five aggregate. Okay, the Pali term used the word khanda. The English use the word five aggregate. Let's take a look at the khandha first, okay? Khandha means at least four things. Khandha or aggregate. Number one means heaps. What is heaps? Heap, you think of the heaps of glass, right? You put glass together on the floor when you sweep the floor, or the leaf, that's one heap, and you move on to another. You collect all the leaf, put in one heap, and then later on you come back and burn them. Okay, that's heaps. And the second one is aggregate. Aggregate means like, again, together. Okay, together. Put everything together. Collection, okay, and groupings. This the idea of khanda. You think of the army. The army may have like 1,000 soldiers. When you put one soldier together, 1,000 of them is become the army. This is one heap, one collection of soldiers. Okay, one group of soldiers. You have another 1,000 of soldiers, you create another group. That's the general idea of what it means by khanda. So let's stick with the word aggregate, okay? All right, come back here again. There are five of them. Let's get to know the term first. The first one is called rupa. What is rupa? Rupa in Pali, English translate to form or matter, something we can touch. We will get to know the term, and then I will explain you what it means by form, what it means by feeling, okay, in a moment. The second one is called Vedana. Vedana is Pali. It translates to feeling or sensation. Let's keep it simple. The third one is called Sanjaya. Sanjaya is a Pali. Translate to perception. Okay, perception. You perceive and then you memorize it. Sometimes we can call it a memory or remembering, ability to remember things. That's called sanya. Okay. Number 4 is sankhara. This is a big word in Buddhism. When you study the Buddhist text, you run into the sankhara often. Okay. We will clarify that today. Sankhara. For now, let's stay with the word mental formation or thinking. And the last one, vinyana. Okay, vinyana. This is another confusing word when you study the teaching of the Buddha, Vijnana or consciousness. And all this together become us as a human being. Okay, there are 5 of them. That's why it's called 5 aggregates. 5 factors stay together and it become another thing. It become what? It become a living being. It become us as a human being. So if we can separate, form is the body, okay, and the rest is the mind. Keep it simple. Body and mind become us. Body and mind. Form is like a blind man with good leg. Okay, this man, he cannot see. A blind man, but he can walk. This is form. But the mind is like a man with good eyes but have no leg. So they have to go together in order for them to achieve, arrive at the destination. So these 2 things need to go together. They cannot separate it. To help you understand a little bit clearer, what makes water? Water comes from 2 elements. We come down to the word element. For example, water. What is the nature of the water? Water is always liquid, right? That's the nature of the water. Okay. What is the nature of fire? Nature of fire is heat. When you get close to fire, you get heat. That's the nature of fire. No matter wherever you lit the fire, you get heat. No matter you find the water, the water always liquid. That's the nature of regular water. So in order for us to make water, you need 2 molecules of hydrogen plus 1 molecule of oxygen. Then you get water. Doesn't matter where you make it. In America, in Thailand, in France, in Switzerland. When you break it down to the element level, you will find 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen. Then we get water. What about us? Okay, in the same notion, human being, we compose of the element as well. But this element, Buddhism call dhatu. Okay, the word dhatu. We don't call it element. Dhatu means the nature that preserves its own condition. What is the nature of the earth dhatu or the earth element? Earth element is something strong, solid. Something solid. What is solid in our body? Okay, teeth, nail, right? Bones. These are the strong and the solid element in the body. The second dhatu or elements, water. Water is liquid. You can think of the blood, saliva, okay? We have liquid in the body. And the third dhatu or element is fire. You feel heat, temperature. And wind, what is wind? What's the difference between wind and air? Scientists only discover 4 of these. They know earth, water, wind, fire. They know something solid, something liquid, something heat, and something move. Okay, when the air move, okay, it's called wind. But the air is just an empty space. When the air stays still, an empty space. But when it moves, it's called wind. So we have gas, right, in the body. We have gas. We know that there is a gas in the body. At the same time, in the physical body, we have a space. There are many space in the body. Let's say between your chest and your lung, there is a space. That's why we can breathe in, breathe out. If no space, how can we breathe? We die. The space in your stomach, there is a space to receive the food. And that space will not move. That's called air element. It stays there. But when it moves, it's called wind. Okay? But here the Buddha discovered something, okay, beyond the scientist world. He discovered different dhatu or element. It's called vijnana. Vijnana is a knowing element. The element that has ability to know. 5 of these is the body. And vijnana or knowing element is the mind. As you can see, everything in us is a compound phenomena. The body composed of many things. Then it becomes a living being. If you think of a man, okay, with everything, with earth, water, wind, fire, air, but without this element, without the vinyana element or knowing element or the mind, but the body without the mind is what? It's a dead body. It's a crop. It doesn't have to move, doesn't have to eat, doesn't have to run, doesn't have to do the work. So it's a dead body. Oppositely, if that thing, whatever it is, have the mind but no body, no physical body, but it has this element only, what do we call? Spirit maybe, ghost maybe, soul maybe, vinyana maybe, you know, in different religions call different things, but we believe that there is something after we die. Okay, and that thing Buddhism call, sometimes we call vinyana, sometimes some religion call soul, they call spirit, call ghost. So body without the mind is a dead body. The mind without the body to stay with, it's a ghost or spirit. Okay. So in order for a man to be a living human being, he needs all of this together. That is why it's called a compound phenomena in the eyes of the Buddha. There's another word for it. It's called sankhara. We'll come back to it in a moment. But for now, this is us. This is the nature of us as a human being. Mind and body. If we break down the body, okay, we will find these 5 elements. Right? Water, earth, fire, and wind, and air. But we cannot find the vinyana or the knowing element. This one we cannot see. Okay? But if you meditate good enough, you may be able to see your own mind. That's a good news. And the Buddha teach us how to do that. Whether a man, a woman, a child, a dog, if you zoom in to the reality, okay, there's no such thing called women, called men, called dog, called kids. Okay, we are just a group of aggregate. One group of aggregate we call Tommy. Another group of aggregate we call Mary. Another group of aggregate we call Bob. And another group of aggregate we call him Ducky. They're just an aggregate. It is a conditioned phenomena. This is what it means by seeing things the way they are. If we fully understand the 5 aggregates, we pretty much fully liberated because we will not cling on anything. This will help us to understand the concept of non-self or anatta. One of the definitions gave by Bhikkhuni Arahant, her name is Wachila Bhikkhuni. This is how she explained 5 aggregates. Let's take a look. She said, just as an assemble parts of the word chariot is used, so when the aggregate exists, there is the convention, a being. Listen carefully. It's only suffering that come to be. Only what? Suffering that come to be. Suffering that stand and fall away. Nothing but suffering, again, come to be. Nothing but suffering cease. To me, this is very deep. How can we relate this to the 5 aggregates? Chariot is like a car. Because of the assemble of the part, that is why we call the car. But if you break down of each element, there is no such thing called car. It's just a convention term that we created. No such thing called car. You think of this picture. Where is the car? Is the car the wheel? Is the car the door? Is the car the engine? What exactly is the car? When you say that's the car, you see the car as a whole, right? The car is just the name to call those group of assemble, those group of objects that put together, then we call car, then we call bicycle, then we call boat. But if we break them apart, we cannot tell which one is actually called a car. But because there are many things put together, and we get another thing from those elements that put together, we give them a new name. We give it a new name, so we call car. So car is what? Car represents this aggregate, this group of elements that put together. If you break them apart, there is no such thing called car. That's what she means. Same thing with human being. There's no such thing called man, woman, dog. It's just the term, conventional term that we created for the sake of convenience to call. There is no Lucas, there is no Long, there is no Lung Pi Nalong Chai, there is no Lung Pi Michael. There's no such thing, it's just a conventional term. When we zoom in, where exactly is Lung Pi Nalong Chai? Can you tell me? Is it my hand? You take my hand and you call this in Nalong Chai? Or is it my ear, my eyes, my nose, my tongue, my nail? There is no Lung Pi Nalong Chai. In the reality, this is the ultimate truth. I'm sitting here as one set of 5 aggregate, and this aggregate, my mom gave the name called Nalong Chai. And then you call the same name as my mom gave it to me. You call me Nalong Chai. But what exactly is Nalong Chai? Is his eye, his ear, his nose, his mouth? Can you actually pinpoint where is Nalong Chai? There's no such thing called Nalong Chai. That's what she means. Okay? And she goes deeper than that. She understood that, the 5 aggregate, it has no control of its own. It's just things that put together. Okay? And that is why she said, only suffering that's come to be, only suffering that stand and fall away, there's no such thing, exists, except suffering. So suffering exists, but no sufferer. Take this sentence with you and think upon it. From this paragraph, that's what she means. Suffering exists, but no sufferer. Who is actually suffering? If no Nalong Chai, if no Long, no Lucas, no Michael, who is actually sitting there and complaining and suffering? In fact, there's no such person, there's no such identity that we can pinpoint to. There's no such person. So suffering exists, but no sufferer. All right, this is the idea of the 5 aggregate, according to this bhikkhuni, Wachila bhikkhuni. And here's another interesting information. The 5 aggregate that constitute what we call an individual or personality are conditioned phenomena. This is the keyword. 5 aggregate is what? Is conditioned. It cannot remain by one particular factor. 5 things put together. Actually 6 elements, 6 dhatu. Earth, water, wind, fire, air, and vinyana put together is become conditioned. And this is called conditioned phenomena. In a state of conditioned flux arising and ceasing. So it's arise, it's remain, and it cease all the time, from moment to moment, with no permanent nature. This 6 element has no permanent nature. It's rising and it's ceasing. Every moment to moment. One has no ownership or control over oneself. When one identifies one as I or me, it can only lead to suffering or dukkha. Similar to what Bhikkhuni Vachura said. We have no control or ownership over ourselves. It's just a conditioned thing that put together. Once this conditioned thing separated, and then life is gone. Life is gone. So when we cling on this, we are suffering because they are changing moment to moment. What changing? All of this changing moment to moment. The body here, now, today, not the body like 10 years ago, or the body when we were born. Okay? Those cells in the body when we were born and the cell that we have now is completely different cell. The cell die and the cell change. Scientists said in 1 minute, 300 million cells die. That's a lot. We just don't notice the change of the cell. We will notice after 5 years, 10 years. So okay, you get older, you have gray hair, you look older. And that's how we notice the change. But in fact, it changes moment to moment. This is the form. We just don't see it. Sensation or feeling also change. Perception or memory also change. Okay? Thinking, of course, it changes very often. And vinyana or consciousness, ability to know also change. Alright? So let's zoom into each individual to get to know what it means. What the Buddha means by form. How do you know which one is form? Form in the eyes of the Buddha, he said clearly in the text, form is something that changeable by heat, by cold, something that breakable. The key word is here is breakable. That's why it's called form. Anything that breakable is form. The glass, breakable. I can touch, it can break. This is form. It's breakable. Our physical body also breakable. We cannot tell the form to stay still, don't break, don't get old, don't die. We have no control over it. Even though we claim this is my body, but we cannot tell the body to stop aging, to stop dying moment to moment. We cannot do that. And this is the criteria that we call form. Whatever breakable is called form. What about the trees? Is it breakable? Of course. Animal, the stone, the table, the television, the computer, everything is form. And whatever considered form, it is breakable. Whatever breakable, it is impermanent. If it's permanent, then you cannot break it. And whatever impermanent is dukkha. This is the keyword. Anything impermanent is dukkha. And all of these 5 things, they are impermanent. And once you understand that, you will have a better understanding that, hey, 5 aggregates is impermanent, they are impermanent. So if we cling on something impermanent, suffering follow. That's the nature, nothing magical. Your job is you have to understand it. This is how the approach that we use. Okay, the first step, we will analyze what are 5 aggregates. What is form, what is feeling, what is memorizing, what is thinking, and what is consciousness. And the second phase, I want you to understand how each one of these considered impermanent. That's the goal. So we go through form already. Okay, simple form is something we can see, we can touch, something tangible, and it is breakable. That's why we call form. And the second one, what is feeling? Vedana. The mind cannot free from feeling in any moment. There are 3 kinds of feeling: pleasurable feeling, unpleasurable feeling or painful, and neutral or neither painful or pleasurable. There are 3 kinds. 1, 2, 3. This feeling, one of these, always occupy human mind. Feeling good, feeling bad, feeling neutral. What's wrong with that? How can this feeling give me suffering? That's something you should pay attention. Pleasurable feeling. A man see the woman, he like her. Every time he see her, he feel good. The mind get excited. Feeling is about exciting. See woman, exciting. See food, exciting. See new car, exciting. See new phone, exciting. It's about exciting. Every time the mind excite, the mind get out of the base, of the center. It go out after the object that it's like, that is pleasure, that is desire. So now the mind of this man, okay, go out to the woman he like, and he feel like if I can have her as my girlfriend, I will be even happier. That's called pleasurable feeling toward the object that we see. See, I see form. I is the inner sense door. See form is the outer object. When I see form, then the mind think, like or dislike or neutral. If you like, you do something to get it. If you don't like, you do something to avoid it. But it happened quickly. It happened from your consciousness first. This one again, not many people pay attention. Then when we study the 5 aggregates, sometimes it helps us to understand better. So let's take a look, together. This one, the Buddha said, all mental phenomena have mind. All mental phenomena. All mental phenomena. Everything that the thinking comes with the mind. It has the mind as their forerunner. In the sense that mind is the most dominant and it is cause other 3 mental phenomena. Because of the mind exists, then feeling exists, then perception exists, and then mental formation or sankhara or thinking exists. because of the mind first. What is the mind then? The mind is here. The mind is consciousness. Okay? The mind is consciousness or vinyana. Because consciousness exists, that's why you have feeling, you can think, and then you can remember it. This is because of the mind. So this picture maybe helps to see things better. Because consciousness, this is the mind. Everything is the mind, okay? Don't get confused. Sometimes they use the words interchangeably. The mind has 4 elements. The mind has ability to know, right? The mind has ability to feel. The mind has ability to remember, and the mind has ability to think. But consciousness happening first. Mind, soul, vinyan, all of this point to the same thing, but they function differently. Okay? Let's say at home, okay, your father call you son. When you go to work, your employee call you the boss. When you go to the party in the evening, your friend call you my friend. But you're the same person, same thing. The mind is the same. It depends on which action we're talking about. Now we're talking about the mind knowing. This is this one. Now we're talking the mind feeling. Second one. Okay. Now we're talking about memorizing. The third one, and we're talking about thinking. Number 4. This is the mind. So that is why here it said the mind get excited. The mind get excited because the eye see the woman. The consciousness tell him that this is the woman, and because he can see, he know, and then he can have feeling toward the object he see, whether he like, he doesn't like, or he feel neutral. He happen to feel liking the woman that he see. So pleasurable feeling happen. And what's wrong with that? Okay, if we zoom deeper, every kind of feeling that exists in the mind, it usually leads us to suffering. How come? It's like the candy with sugar coated, beautiful candy. It looks beautiful, it looks tasty, but when you eat candy, it can harm your teeth. Feeling is just like that. If you don't careful, if you don't mindful, if you don't guard your sense door well, pleasurable feeling can trap you because it's run by raga or greed. Underneath pleasurable feeling, okay, there is something called greed or raga, sense pleasure. You want to have a phone, that's also greed. You want to have more money, that's also greed. It's a driving force behind pleasurable feeling. Now the man wants to have girlfriend. His behavior drive from raga or sense pleasure. Now he go after her. He feel like, okay, my life's gonna be happier if I have her as my girlfriend. So he do whatever it takes. They both become a lover, boyfriend and girlfriend. As long as the lady is still pleasing him, she's still beautiful, she's still loyal to him, she still says something nice to him, then he is happy. Pleasurable feelings still there. The feeling that he has, okay, pleasurable feeling, is drive from raga or greed. Everything that drive from kilesa or defilement always, okay, bring us suffering. We have to be careful on that. What about unpleasurable feeling? Also, very similar. Unpleasurable, okay, come from hatred. Underneath that, it has hatred, just like the candy. It looks nice, it looks beautiful, but it's harmful inside. Something you don't like, okay, pleasurable, something you like and dislike. Neither painful nor painful. Again, this also comes with delusion. The mind is quite crowded. It doesn't know what to do. It has doubt. You don't know what to do. You feel neutral, neither painful or neither pleasurable. It doesn't mean this is good though. Sometimes you have doubt, you really don't know what to do. And this is about the feeling. There are 3 kinds of feeling: pleasurable feeling, unpleasurable feeling, and neither, one of these. Feeling is a second, okay, aggregate. Human being, we have ability to feel. And the Buddha talk about 3 kind of feeling. There are more than this. Sometimes he talk about 5 kind of feeling. Sometimes he talk about 108 kind of feeling. But for now, let's just stick with the 3 kind of feeling. The feeling exists, the feeling stand, and the feeling goes away. Can you control yourself and tell yourself that, hey, today I want to be happy all day. I just want to have pleasurable feeling all day. Can you order yourself to do that? Or can you tell yourself, no, I'm going to be sad all day? Or I'm going to feel neutral all day? It's uncontrollable. Just cannot. The mind gets excited all the time with something that which one they feel more excited, they go to that one. Let's say if a man, the lady left him, he got heartbroken, and all of a sudden he got a phone call, hey, you know what? Your mom died. Come to the funeral. So he forgot the lady. Now his mind moved to the funeral. He may be laughing, watching movie, enjoy the show, and all of a sudden he got the call, hey, you know what? Your car got stolen. Oh, move from laughing to worry. Feeling change all the time. You cannot control that. Okay? You cannot tell yourself to stay or remain happy or remain sad all the time. You just cannot do that. And we have to be smart with this, okay? Don't have to commit suicide. If something very bad to you, someone don't love you, a man, left you, a woman left you, don't have to commit suicide. Do something else. Get something else for the mind to get excited with. Get out, have dinner with your friends, go watch movie, go exercise, go to the gym, do something, get your body moving. Change your emotion. Don't stay with, that sadness for long. It doesn't do any good. So these are feeling. Okay, 3 kind of feeling. And feeling, again, it's impermanent. The key word here is impermanent. Because we cannot force it to stay the same. Always happy, always unhappy. All right? And the third one is Sanjaya. What is Sanjaya? Sanjaya or perception. Sanjaya is your memory. The mind has ability to remember. Remember what? Remember this is the white color, this is the yellow color, this is the pink color, this is purple, this is white, this is green. You remember. When did you remember? When you were young? Okay, someone told you this is called yellow. Now you still know this is yellow. 10 years from now, you still call it yellow. Every time you see this color, you know this is yellow. This is your memory. Okay, your father's name, your friend's name, your school name. Okay, your memory in the past, and that is one of the function of the mind. It has ability to memorize. Is it permanent or impermanent? There's so many things that you forgot, right? Okay, we cannot force ourselves. You know what? You have to remember the book that you just read forever. Everything that you read in school, gone. You have to go back and read it again. We cannot force our mind, okay, to remember everything from day one that we read it until, whenever we want it. We just cannot force it. It's impermanent. That is why whatever impermanent, it creates dukkha. If you cling on your feeling, you cling on your perception so much, it's going to end up suffering. And number 4, mental formation or sankhara. Again, this is the big word, sankhara. Sankhara in Buddhism, okay, at least has 2 meanings. The first one is called compounding. And the second one is called, in this case, sankhara in 5 aggregate means thinking, which is big difference, same word. Don't get confused. When we talk about sankhara, you need to know which particular topic we are talking about. In this, we're talking about 5 aggregate. Sankhara in 5 aggregate points specifically to the ability of the mind to be able to think. To formation, mental formation means you can think of good thing, you can think of evil thing, or you can think of neutral. Not good, not bad. And because of that thinking, it becomes your action, it becomes your word. If you thinking good, you will do good action, you will say good word, and that becomes your karma, you receive good karma. If you're thinking bad, okay, towards someone, you say something bad and you do bad action, then you create bad karma. Karma follow. And that is why it's called sankhara or formation. It form your thinking. Form you to think good, form you to think bad, form you to think neutral. It's called sankhara. In this case, in five aggregate. But what about sankhara in general? You may have heard sapphe sankhara anicca, sapphe sankhara dukkha, sapphe dhamma anatta. That means that word sankhara is the same word, but it has different meaning. It means compounding. Compounding means there are more than one thing together. Let's say if you put A and B and C, you get D. Okay? You put earth, water, wind, fire, you get human. You get tree, you get animal. You get the mountain, you get the stone, you get house, you get car. It's a compounding. The car is a compounding. It's a good example. Car composed of many parts. Okay, wheel, okay, door, chair, engine, mirror, glass. Then it becomes a car. The car is a compounding. In this case, sankhara means both living and non-living. Okay, it covers both dimensions, living and non-living being. So pretty much everything is a compound. Whatever is a compound, okay, is uncontrollable, is breakable, is impermanent. And because of this impermanent characteristic, it creates dukkha. So we have to understand this. Why it creates dukkha? Because, okay, it doesn't have an ownership. It cannot control itself. It's just a compound condition. It stays together with condition. It's uncontrollable or impermanent. Whatever impermanent is dukkha. That's why the Buddha said, form is impermanent. He said in one particular sutta, he said the five aggregates are anicca. What is anicca? Anicca is impermanent. Whatever is impermanent, that is dukkha, or unsatisfactory, or oppression. Whatever is dukkha, it's without atta, without self. What is without self? Then that is not my, that is I am not, that is not myself. Thus, it should be seen by perfect wisdom as it really is. The Buddha wants us to see the five aggregates as they really are. Who see by perfect wisdom as it really is, his mind not grasping, is detached from 10, he is liberated. 10 is tanha or craving. If we really see, as the Buddha mentioned, that five aggregate impermanent, then we will not cling on, this is mine, this is I am, this is not myself. This is the perfect wisdom as it really is. Okay, we may not fully understand, but at least we hear what the Buddha wants us to hear. The concept of anicca or impermanent. Impermanent is, another word is uncontrollable. If we can control, then it can be permanent. And because we cannot control, that is why we call it impermanent. If anything falls into this characteristic of impermanent, it will create dukkha. This is what he discovered. He discovered dukkha. And what caused dukkha? Because we cling on something impermanent. This is help us to understand the concept of no self. There is no such thing called permanent self, because five aggregate is a compound thing. So let's move on to number 5. This is mental formation already. Okay. Sankhara or mental formation or thinking. We have ability to think. We can think good, think bad, and think not good, not bad. And that thinking can bring us suffering. See, the good news is we have ability to control our thinking. Okay, we can control our thinking to think good. If you know that this is thinking bad, then you can stop that thinking. With consciousness, you can do a lot. That is why number 5 is the most important element. It's consciousness or vijnana. The mind has ability to know. There are many meanings of vijnana. Okay, in this case, let's keep it simple. Vijnana is knowing. Knowing what? Knowing the flower, knowing the man, knowing the woman, knowing the car, knowing computer, knowing this is the tree, what kind of tree, knowing this is mathematics, knowing this is microphone. knowing this is Thai food, this is American food. It's ability to know. The Buddha gives very simple example when he talk about vijnana. He talk about taste of the food. When you eat food, you know this is bitter, this is sweet, this is spicy. This is knowing, this is vijnana. You know the food is spicy, you know the food is sweet. Whether you eat it or not, up to you. Now you know. It's very simple. All right? So now we know what are the five aggregates. Now we know each one of them, what it means by form. Form is breakable. Anything breakable is called form. We know feeling. There are three kinds of feeling. Feeling pleasure, unpleasure, feeling neutral. Okay, and Sanjaya or memory. We have the third factor. We have ability to memorize. Okay, but again, all of these are impermanent. And we also have ability to think good, think bad, and we have ability to know. And the question is, why the Buddha said clinging on five aggregate is the cause of suffering. That's the keyword from the first noble truth, which is, five aggregate of attachment is suffering. Because all of these are impermanent. Everything that impermanent is considered dukkha. Okay, five aggregate is anicca. Anicca or impermanent. All of them are impermanent. The body or form is impermanent. The feeling impermanent. Okay, your memory also impermanent. Your thinking impermanent. Okay, we think a lot. Sometimes we think good. Sometimes we think bad. Sometimes we think of not good, not bad. But the thinking is think a lot. It's impermanent. We cannot force ourselves to feel good all day. We cannot force ourselves to think good all day, or oppositely. We just cannot do that. It's impermanent. And whatever impermanent, the Buddha come to the conclusion that it is dukkha. Usually translate to just the word suffering. Dukkha has broader meaning than just suffering. Oppression, unsatisfactoriness. Whatever impermanent, it is dukkha. And whatever is dukkha, it is without atta or without self. This points us to another concept of anatta, the concept of non-self or not self, which we will touch on the next topic. This is the perfect wisdom that the Buddha wants monks to understand, wants all of us to understand. It's our responsibility to understand it and put into practice. Okay, any questions so far?